Hey there, welcome. My name is Damara. Welcome to my website. I thought I would record a little video for you just so that you could get to know me a little bit and understand where I came from and a little bit about who I am and what I offer. So this journey we call spiritual awakening started for me on the yoga mat years ago. I used the mat to move through old patterns and really dislodge old ways of being that were really keeping me from being who I wanted to be. I continue to practice because it's a ever evolving process, this process we call spiritual awakening. Um, and I always try to remember that there's no such thing as yoga perfect. It's a practice. And so every time we show up with no agenda. We just show up to move and breathe, and that's it. We just show up and accept ourselves where we are. This practice is like that. That's why I love it so much, because there's no end path, there's no goal. It's just space for breath and movement and compassion and grace. Grace is probably my favorite word when I talk about this practice of yoga in all of its forms. After I started practicing, I began writing, and I wrote 2 books and never knew if they would make it into anyone's hands. And I still, to this day, get letters from women from all around the world telling me how much it supported them when they were going through transformation. Little did they know that I wrote the book when I was transforming myself. So as we all know, writing is so cathartic, and it was very cathartic for me. I worked with people like Wayne Dyer, Louise Hay, um, Byron Katie is one of my favorites, Bruce Lipton, and they all showed me different ways of interpreting the practice of yoga, this spiritual awakening. It was just a different way to interpret these practices. So I feel very blessed to have been able to work with people like this. After that, I dove into energy healing. So I dove into Reiki and essential oils and crystals, and all of that just amplified my practice. It just brought my practice to a deeper understanding of who I was underneath this body we call our earth suit, right? After a divorce, I moved to San Francisco, and I dove deep into the practices of yoga. I practiced with some of the most amazing teachers, I think, in the world, and they became my colleagues. I got to understand from a deeper perspective what pranayama really meant. I got to be in a room full of hundreds of sweaty people and chanting and singing at the top of our lungs, sometimes crying, you know. It was something that I feel very blessed to have experienced, and will always hold that as the bar of my practice, pinnacle of my practice, I guess you could say. Um, there was nothing like it. And I do hope to experience that again, but at the same time, it's ingrained in who I am. So it shows up as a deep devotion to this practice in all of its forms. The mythical stories about the deities and goddesses really entranced me. Like, I was blown away listening to story upon story upon story, and then became deeply embedded in that path, the goddess path. And that led me to a priestess path, and I learned all about alchemy and a lineage of another kind. One that was so memorable to me. I could feel it in my bones. It just felt like something I had learned years and years and years ago. I fell in love with the 13 Moon Mysteries, and I still resonate intensely with the true meaning of what it means to embody the goddess. For so long, I thought that uh, utilizing goddess practices could wait until my children were older. And what I realized through practicing that is that it was all happening simultaneously, and I was the goddess in all the moments of my parenting. So um, I moved to that. Astrology has woven its way into everything I do. And it doesn't bind me or box me in. Instead, um, it adds this layer of understanding that we are the microcosm of the macrocosm. So I have dove into astrology, um, not as a be all do all, but as a blueprint, as an outline of this potentiality of what we call life. Remembering that we are a human and we have free will, and we also have this divine innate power within us to connect with everything outside of us as well. Um, Finally, in Tulum several years back, I was introduced to shamanism. And I remember saying, "How can I take a shaman training?" And the shaman laughed at me and said, "Well, you need to go to South America." And at that moment in time, that was just unattainable for me. So I took a training with a woman in Oregon who I adore. She's amazing, and I've learned so much from her. But the biggest piece that really resonates with me, and it really brings all of this back into a circle for me, is that we are a part of all that is. Um, Shamanism reminds us that we are the earth and we're all one and we're all interconnected. And so all these trainings that I've had really all say the same thing, and it brings it all home. So what I want to say is that if you take one thing from this video, is that remember that we are ever evolving beings. So we're always shifting, we're always unfolding, we're always revealing some other layer of who we are. And any path that you start on is going to be the perfect spot for you. But don't wait until you're perfect or till the timing is right. Just step on a path and begin. And I promise, when you step on a path with me, I will be here with you for whatever you need. Um, you just start somewhere. I've become a master of navigating transformation and change. If that's one thing I know I'm good at, it's that. And so many tools in my tool shed that I would love to share with you. So if anything resonates with you, please feel free to reach out. If not, please step with authority and with grace and an open heart on your path. Thank you so much. I appreciate you being here. Have a beautiful day. Namaste.